Hey guys, Troy and Tristan here, back with another podcast. It has been a minute, a lot happening, a lot happening. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about the playoffs, some big performances, going to talk about the market. I know probably been talked to death at this point, but I still think it's worth, just updating week by week. I think things are changing, different perspectives, have to keep adapting. So we're going to get to that. Once again, me and Tristan haven't talked in a while, so going to be a fun one, catch up, talk some basketball, talk
Off
some
the cuff.
basketball cards. Yep.
Off the
I'm
cuff,
excited for it.
people.
But first, the intro. Gotta love it. And you know what I actually just realized as well? Was our last one we posted the in-person one?
It might have been. Yeah.
I think it was because I don't think we've talked about my Dallas card show experience on here before.
No, we didn't. We talked about the show you did in the Bay Area, but not about Dallas, which looked way more big time.
Yeah, it was cool. It was interesting. It's been a while. We won't spend too much time on it, but it was really cool. Got to go with our friend Scott. Darius was there. Obviously, we wish you could have made it. Definitely next time we're going to make something happen. But it was cool. It was cool to meet all these people you talk to on Instagram all the time in person, and see all these big cards and everything. But it was a little overwhelming for me. I don't think I haven't, like I said, this is a off the cup episode. I hadn't talked to you too much about it. I did feel a little bit like a small fish in a big pond when I got out there. Yeah, it was like these kids. I was talking specifically too about the kids out there, man. Oh my God. They would just find a card that's worth $200, talk someone down to 175 and then sell it to someone for 225. Just moving the whole day. People were just flipping on the floor. And I was like, man, I'm just not built like that.
No,
maybe one.
No, I mean, it's for me and you, I feel like it's not worth our time. But if you I don't know, when we were 17, 18, maybe that would have been something we were more into, because it's definitely ways to make money. But I don't know, if you start to get a reputation like that, I feel like, people might look down on you a little bit or judge you a little bit. But hey, I don't, anyone, people have different grinds, and I'm totally not opposed to that. People find good deals where they can. But it seems like the in-person, it's weird. Everyone's got their T-shirts and their stickers they're giving out. And you showed up with Scott Wu with the camera. But it seemed like you met some cool people that you already developed these relationships, like you said, on Instagram. So it's cool to actually put faces to those names,
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the cameras. I'll definitely keep content creator talk short today. But man, the pushback against content creators, and part of it I definitely get, having a bunch of cameras shoved in your face without asking at a show, these old time dealers. But man, people hate content creators right now. It's really funny. On Blowout, memes. Oh my God. Yeah. They literally I don't think they use the words I want them to die, but it's whatever the harshest language can be about content creators, that's what they use. But hey, I don't know, maybe there definitely are some people out there who are a little worse than others, but it's just funny. I think it's because a lot of them have gotten so they're making real money now. Before, even when I started, there was one or two dudes who were making any type of money. But now there's people who have real businesses and sponsorships and
150,000 subscribers, and it's starting to get more mainstream.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting, but that was a fun time. Last thing about the Dallas show, though, you speak about the environment and everything. We were watching. What game was it? I think it was. I want to say it was Celtics. For some reason, I think it was Tatum. I think it was Tatum going off, and everyone's crowded around the TV, watching it, getting all excited. And I was like, man, this is it's cool. Being together, watching sports again. But yeah, that's perfect transition. Playoffs. I mean, I don't even know where to start. What are you thinking? What have been your takeaways?
Well, it's just interesting, just from the hobby standpoint. I usually tell people stuff heats up in the playoffs. And I'm sure there's a couple guys like Booker, maybe Mitchell, not too many. Ja a little bit, but not too many people really are. Trey probably is getting a slight bump, maybe Embiid, but all the, the LeBrons, Giannis, obviously after going down 0-2, there's a lot of people that aren't getting, some of the playoff buzz that we expected. Durant, Harden, Kyrie are all looking primed to, make a finals run. So I'm sure those three players, like their cards will be strong. But with Steph out, LeBron out, it's going to be interesting. But it seems like the whole market is a little bit volatile. I mean, we don't need to dedicate this podcast to talk about that. I think you've already talked about it a lot, and people already know that. But it's just interesting how playoffs usually correlate to like a lot more buzz, and it seems like it's not quite as much this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll pat myself on the back a little bit first, because you heard it. I was on the podcast. We were talking so much. Everyone's like, the cycles, bro. It's easy, just right. I was like, let's all just like, things are different. Like, I'm not sold on the fact that this is just going to be easy and everything's going to pop off just because it's the playoffs. I'm like, when everyone's thinking and saying the same thing, it's like, it's done. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and we've seen that. And this is like a totally anecdotal thing, but I bought a Donovan Mitchell white prism numbered out of 149, BGS 9.5, great card. And it was one of those where it was just listed and it was like a cheap, like this was back in March or February, not at the absolute peak. It was a little bit after the pullback, and like had like 22 watchers, and I was offering on it, and it had like 3 competing offers. Like, when you can just kind of tell like, okay, this card is hot. It's a good deal. Everyone's going after it. I got it for $650. Mitchell's popping off. I have it for like $850 or best offer right now. Like a white select, a good card. It's not base. Hasn't moved. You know, all this stuff. I mean, Giannis is still like Anthony Davis base prism. I had one of those. Those are getting killed. Granted, he's out. So I guess
to be fair, like they should. I don't know. He had a lot of. Everyone was saying it's either him and LeBron to win the Finals MVP. Everyone picked the Lakers. He did get injured, but just didn't seem like he had the drive this year. And I'm not up here to like talk about and trash professional athletes, but he didn't have a lot of heart. It didn't seem like he was playing with a lot of heart. And that whole Lakers team, they had a really deep run in the bubble. So I think we could give him
LeBron walking back on defense twice after not getting like, I don't know.
I'm a big LeBron. How can you not be a LeBron fan? But that is pretty weak. And then walk straight to the locker room. Didn't shake people's hands. He's just not used to getting bounced that quickly.
I think that I'm careful saying this because, so just in the I hate LeBron camp, and some of those people are just like the worst. Basically, I don't know how to say it besides that. But like between when I saw 3 rims and all this, like, and then when he fell on the floor and he was rolling around and like, I don't know, I got to be careful with it. But yeah, the way he answers interviews, and I don't know, that's not what this podcast is about. But it was just, I don't know. I think, and that other stuff, debatable. Once again, you got to be kind of careful with that. But the walking back on defense with 3 minutes left, that's inexcusable. Like,
it's a bad look.
Or even going and, I needed to go get rehab early. You got to be out there with your teammates, man. Like that's, I don't know. I really didn't like seeing that. And once again, I'm being careful because I hate the people who are like, MJ, that's not my GOAT. Back in my day, he would have blah, blah, blah.
In the Bay, like we're around a lot of people that trash LeBron, like with it's totally unwarranted. And, he's number 2 in all-time minutes or whatever, getting up there with playoff minutes. So I think he gets a little bit of a pass. Like he is, 35, 36. We can't expect him to be, play like Booker or some of these young guys in their 20s. But it was kind of not very classy to be walking off like that and seem kind of bitter. But it is what it is. I think we'll see what's in store next year for the Lakers. But for sure, for him and Davis seem like the most sure bets from a hobby standpoint. Because Davis kind of finally has a chance to be the guy in LA. Last year kind of didn't get the Finals MVP. I think LeBron outplayed him. I kind of thought this could be the year for him, and I was totally wrong.
Yeah, street clothes, Anthony Street Clothes Davis.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Last thing on LeBron, I think objectively, at the very least, you can say he's more dramatic than he needs to be. I think there'd be very few people who would disagree with that. But yeah, I mean, they're out. But in terms of, you mentioned like Booker, is there a young guy who's impressed you the most so far, or like change your perception?
I've never been the biggest Booker fan. I think Mitchell. I think Mitchell and him are kind of in the same tier, and the both of them have played exceptionally well. Mitchell, it's interesting to see that that young of a player be such an alpha against Kawhi, Paul George, He did it against Westbrook and Paul George. He's done it against good teams and, puts up 43, 45. He already has 4 40-point playoff games in his resume. So I think Mitchell is really really special. And I know you kind of have been back and forth with Mitchell, but in the last 6 months, I think he's kind of won you over too.
Yep, you're 100% right. I was never a fan of Mitchell. Basically, I'll just say that. And it's funny. I just kind of ended up with his cards just because there was a deal. Basically, I was buying a big lot, and there was a lot of Mitchell in there. So now it's funny how it switched to now I'm cheering for him when I was totally against him. But yeah, no, he's legit. He's doing really well. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the West is wide open. Before it started, right? You'd be like, Donovan Mitchell in the finals. Oh my God. Yeah. Good luck. It could easily happen. They just won game 1. So yeah. it could easily happen. So it'll be interesting to see. That's what I'm really excited about because if Booker or Mitchell leads their team to the finals, at that point, you got to see a little boost there in the prices. Or at least you'd think so.
100%. And if it's not this year, then the hype leading into next year will.
Yeah.
That's one thing that has remained constant. I know the cycles argument doesn't really, you're skeptical of it, but there is a lot of preseason hype that you can capitalize on for a lot of guys that don't retain the value.
Yeah, I think I have said that. I think there will always be cycles, right? But I just think they're going to be kind of off. Granted, I've been, at least so far, I've kind of been wrong. But I mean, you bought SGA, right? We kind of talked about it. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a moment really early on some of these guys where it's oh blank, oh wow, Zion prices are going, it's too late, I need to get in, and everyone panics, and out of nowhere, everyone's gonna think, oh yeah, I'll just wait to the off season, right?
Yeah,
and I'm gonna buy. But then some of these guys, the hype might go early, it might go late, it might go one, it's gonna be a weird time that people don't really expect, but I could see stuff going.
Well, especially with Luka, like you were saying, I know we were talking about his silver prices, some of his more readily available cards dipped a little bit, but I think, he really played an exceptional first round. He got bounced again, but when Porzingis, he's probably not even their second best player. Their second best player is not capable of that position. I think at a certain point in the next, 2 or 3 years, they're going to surround him with a good team. They have to. They have a good coach in a pretty big market. So obviously, it's not everyone knows Luka is going to probably be the next face of the NBA, but there could be some buying opportunities here before he pops. Because to your point, at a certain, it could be even before the next year hype. They're going to look at his numbers and see where he stacks up, and he has a case to be an all-time. He could go down top 10 player if he stays healthy and things break right for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just legit. I don't know how people will watch him and then they'll just be, oh, he's still a young guy. He's still got to prove it. I'm like, no, bro, just watch him. It's different. It's crazy for me to say this when he hasn't been out of the first round and he does have a lot to prove, but he's there. He just is already there. It's not a question in my mind.
He's dropping 46, 14, and 9. He looks like the best player in a series with Kawhi and Paul George. Kawhi eventually outplayed him, but I think it's exceptional. I am a little bit worried about his body holding up. It doesn't seem like he takes the best care of it. People say he looks like a 7-Eleven worker. It's hilarious, but obviously he's a professional athlete. So, I'm sure he's at least in decent shape, but I don't know. I am really excited about Luka. I know you're excited about Zion. So I think to your point, even Tatum seems super affordable for a guy that steps up when the games get bigger.
Yeah, I guess my only thing with Luka is and the only thing he really has to prove to me personally would be consistency, staying healthy. I mean, you never know. You always got to take that into account. And then also just being on a better team as well. You'd want to see him have some more talent. But in terms of just showing his individual quality, nothing left to prove to me. That's proven. There's nothing left to see from him. So that's why Luka, we talked a little bit about the Prism Silver and stuff, and I was considering moving it, and then the market uncertainty. Most of what I'm holding right now is, like I said, Luka, and then Messi and Ronaldo, and I'm down to go down with the ship on that one. If I'm holding Luka, Messi, and Ronaldo, and this whole thing just goes down, I really will sleep at night.
Yeah, you're not speculating on guys that
Yeah,
could flop. It's not if you lose your money, it's because the whole market's gone down, not because of your investments.
100%. And real quick, yeah, you mentioned Tatum. Really, I mean, really strong play. I just, I mean, the Celtics situation. No more Brad Stevens, no more Danny Ainge, announced fairly recently. I still have to see. I don't know. It's hard for me to say I have to see more from Tatum, but I guess in fairness, though, like they had that stat right. I think it was Luca was either scored or assisted on like 33 out of 37 buckets. Like he just controls. I guess that's it. He doesn't. I don't see Tatum control the game the same way.
No, but that's comparing him to, Luca controls the game like, no one we've ever seen before. He's in the LeBron category, at least on the offensive end, because he makes like the Dwight Powell's and all these other guys, Tim Hardaway Jr. is having career year. Like he makes everyone around him better and raises the floor for the whole team. And I think Tatum is exceptional, like from a offensive scoring standpoint. Like he's 6'9" with polish and touch, and he does everything. He almost looks like a baby Durant out there, but he doesn't have the playmaking or, like to your point, controlling the pace of the game the same way Luka. But at that point, I agree with you. I don't think anyone's going to push back on that. You're comparing him with someone who's like transcendent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I'm interested to see what happens with Tatum. I mean, to be honest, all these young guys like just more and doing better and better and better.
Yeah.
Like usually you count on, okay, maybe someone like who's all these guys, the main guys people are talking about would probably be like Luka, Tatum, Booker, Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
And they've all Trae Young. Oh my God,
Trae
we
Young
haven't even talked about Trae Young yet.
Yeah.
People were so down on him.
I have to be honest with you. Trae Young is turning me into a big fan just from he's like marquee. He's box office bowing after he leaves. And then a reporter asked him about it, and he's like, yeah, everyone's from New York. They know what they do when the show's over in New York. You take a bow. And it's just he doesn't shy away from the moment. He also is making players around him better. I mean, everyone is comparing him to Steph. He can't shoot nearly as well, but the playmaking is absurd. Some of these lob passes, he sees plays before they happen, and I think it's really exciting to see someone that can score like him, but also see the game. And he's also elevating players around him. John Collins, Capella, Bogdanovich, everyone. The floor opens up when Trae Young has the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and it's funny like about the market as well. Trae Young got pretty cheap. I know he's gotten up. He's gone up a little bit since he's played well, but like if he dips even more, same with Luka, right? If Luka sees another dip in the offseason, I'm ready to buy. I really am. Like this, this isn't like a hype. Like I do pat myself a little bit on the back. Like everyone, a lot of peak content creators were saying like, "Oh, buy the dip, guys, buy the dip," and a lot of people thought that was self-beneficial. I'm not sure that's the right word, but basically like they felt like they were just trying to pump everything back up.
Yeah.
So I want to be careful with what I say, but that's just how I feel. And I think usually when you're thinking something, most people are going to be pretty close to you. So that gives me a little hope. Like if Luka and Trae are legit, so if they go down anymore, I'm happy to buy and then see what happens. So once again, like I said, the playoffs have been very interesting for pricing.
Yeah.
The off season is going to be maybe even more so. It's like, what the heck is going to happen with these type of guys? Because like I said, Trae, he should drop, what is it, like, 30% or something? That's what people would normally expect. But if he drops 30%, I mean, for me, that just seems easy.
Yeah. I think we have to pick. It's like you said, right now we have a glut of young talent in the NBA. It's undeniable to have this many players that are, 23, 24 and younger play this well on big stages. So I think it's going to be tough though, because everyone is excited about them. And at a certain point in 5 years from now, when they're 27, 28, 29 and starting to hit, the mid prime, but like the tail end of their prime, everyone's going to say, well, what about the playoff success? Or what about this? So there's going to be certain milestones. Like Giannis has already crossed a couple. He has 2 MVPs. It's a shame that that's how it's looked at. Like there's awesome players that, when it's all like the Damian Lillards, the players that don't really have these career achievements, they may never see the same growth as, these Hall of Famers and all-time guys. That's why someone like Steph, we can all say easily the best shooter ever. In addition to all these other things he's done, he has the scoring records. he does have his rings already. You have to be accomplished to retain value. So I think, this might be a whole nother podcast, but, while we're on the topic of young players, I think, each collector is going to have to pick 2 or 3 guys and, really bet on them from a career achievement standpoint. Like, who is going to be leading their team? Who can be the best player on a team that makes the finals or even the conference finals? And, there's a lot of, it's tough because there's a lot of players. And you talked about Booker, Trey, Mitchell. I could see Tatum. Tatum's already done it. And then Zion, who knows what peak Zion looks like. So I have a hard time even getting there because, then we're not even talking about SGA or Ja Morant or any, De'Aaron Fox, who's exciting too, but he's just, left behind because he's maybe number 12 or 13 on the list. So it's tough. And, I don't mean to, go on and on about it, but it's exciting to have this much young talent, I guess. That's what it boils down
Yeah, it's funny.
to.
It's funny you talk about picking a few because that was honestly like, it wasn't even that I didn't like Donovan Mitchell. I was just like, well, I can't believe in every single young player and like have cards of every single young player. I was like, there has to be 2 that I don't go for. And the 2 honestly were Donovan Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox. The De'Aaron Fox one is looking so good, good at least so far. Yeah. But Donovan Mitchell, I've definitely changed my tune on that one.
Well, at a certain point, the guy keeps stepping up in big games. You just have to tip your hat. I'm with you. There's certain players I'm like, I don't see it, but they win me over. Trey Young is one of those guys. I was not that high on him. I thought he was overhyped. And then I watched him dismantle the Knicks. And then game 1 against the Sixers balled out. It's like, what more? You sound like a hater if you keep, denying these players' greatness, especially when they're this young.
Yeah.
The Jazz, honestly, it's your dream scenario. You got Booker against Mitchell. It could be a Jazz Suns conference finals. How nuts is that?
Well, not just Booker against Mitchell. I was texting my friend Gil yesterday. Clarkson versus Kennard going off.
All right,
the Troy Reich my team matchup.
Bro, I was happy to catch up with you for the last 20 minutes. I'm out.
Yeah, no, it was just funny. Like all the guys, like I'll keep this one really short, but John Collins obviously played with him, doing really well. Clarkson, Philippines national team, doing really well, and then Kennard. We were watching the game when we was 7 for 7 on threes in the second half alone against us in college. Just killed us, and then he was just making them crazy. I was like, he's legit. Like I'll always believe in Kennard. And I know there's a lot of people who didn't. He didn't even really play in the last series.
Yeah,
I know, especially towards the end, though. Yeah, especially towards the end, he was a little bit of a defensive liability. I think that kind of
they said it. This is a funny thing. The announcers said it. They're like, they keep picking. It's weird. He's kept Kennard in this long. They keep picking on him on defense, and then the next 2.5 minutes was just pick and rolls, find Kennard's guy, and then abuse him. But they do need his shooting. Like they need another guy that can step in and hit 4 or 5 threes if he gets hot.
Yeah, he was pulling, and then Clarkson, the ultimate green light. I mean, he's 6th man of the year, so he's
6 of 18. 6 of 18. But hey. I mean, I can't hate. He's definitely turned himself into a solid, like I guess beyond solid NBA player. He is in a really good situation though. Like that Utah Jazz team, they're well coached. He has no pressure. He could step in. He could go 6 of 18 in a win, and it looks good, like what just happened.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Stop. I know. He was like, I heard an interview. He actually seems like a really cool guy. I'm sure you know him decently well, but I heard an interview where he was talking to Joe Ingles, and he told the reporters, like, yeah, I told Joe, like, if there's 3 or 4 seconds on the shot clock and you don't want it, like, give me the ball. Like, I got no problem, putting that bitch up. And it's like, It's just funny that, he's about that. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Last 30 seconds of Clarkson talk here. I don't really know him that well personally, but obviously he played on the national team with a lot of guys out here, and he like always, checks back in on Instagram, and you said, hey, I appreciate, the story shout out or all this kind of stuff. And I was like, that really, like, that is nice of him. Like these people who, he's only played with, once or twice, but he still takes the time to personally thank them if they, because it's tough. Cause I have friends, and like, if you congratulate them on something, I mean, think about how many DMs an NBA player gets after a game and text messages of people saying, oh, good stuff out there. Like to take that time really is really great. And also there was like, the Asian American hate, like a food truck got destroyed, a Filipino food truck in Utah, and he paid for it. He's like, yeah, let's get you guys a new one. So shout out to Jordan Clarkson. Been a fan of him for a long time. I know Tristan has. I've been hyping him since the day he was in the league.
I think that's the only reason why I'm not anti, but why I give you a hard time. Only because you hype him so hard. I mean, he's honestly turned himself into a damn solid NBA player.
We won't go through the full list, but there's at least, I think, 10 players that I'm personally responsible for you hating.
I can't argue with you. You're not wrong.
Definitely. Okay, so yeah, it was good talking about the playoffs. We'll definitely come back. Oh, okay. Last thing. Finals pick. Updated finals pick. Let's hear it.
I'm really rooting for the Nets. I have a couple vested interests. I'm rooting for the Nets. It's looking like, I'd be dumb not to be picking them, but I'm nervous with 2 games in Milwaukee. I'm picking the Nets, I guess would be the short answer, but I think it's the same. God, I can't believe it's going to be a Suns and maybe Jazz. I thought the Clippers would beat the Jazz, to be honest with you. I thought they have 2 of the 3 best players in that series. But that Utah team is gritty. They play defense and they hit threes. They're like the ultimate, new age team. So I don't know. I'm picking the Nets, and I guess I would say Nets now the way it's looking against the Jazz. And I think the Nets are going to win. What do you think?
I'm definitely going to go Nets. Unlike you, I'm not nervous at all about the Bucks. Like I'm actually not nervous at all about the East in general. That doesn't mean I'll be right, but I just feel very assured that the Nets will be there. In terms of the West, I'm like the ultimate flip flopper because I actually did I did a little YouTube show or something out here, and I picked the Mavericks to beat the Clippers because
you were close
at the time. Yeah, at the time it looked pretty good as well. But now I'm actually 1 week later, I'm choosing the Clippers to get to the finals. I know they just lost, but they've turned things around also in fairness. Like the way they look now is way better.
Before game 1, I had the Clippers beating the Jazz, and I think the winner of that series will probably beat the Suns. But the Suns are gritty, man. It's cool to see Chris Paul at this age still be, a leader, and not just like a leader like Rondo is, like a leader and then still can give you 20 and 10 and control the game in the fourth quarter. He's always up there one of the best scorers in the fourth quarter. So it'll be interesting. I agree the Clippers should do it. It's just the piece, for some reason, the pieces, they don't seem to totally mesh. You know what I mean? Like what you have Paul George, Kawhi, and then all these other solid, I like Zubac and Terrence Mann's playing well. You have Marcus Morris, all these guys that are solid, but for some reason they cannot figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. But also, you have Kawhi and PG, who are the best. In the West for sure, the best 2 players out there. So I think that, you could even make the argument. Well, I don't know with how Paul George is playing, but they're still the
Mitchell,
best.
I'm taking Mitchell over Paul George right now.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, there's still the best 1-2 out there. So I could see them. I could see them getting there. The only point I have on the Suns, and I'm kind of touching them all here. I was LeBron James analyst, sports card market expert. Now I'm going to be a professional doctor as well. With his shoulder injury, it seems like it's getting better, and it's an upper body injury, so it's not like he has a knee thing or a pulled this or that, where it's going to be kind of like the more he plays, it's just it's not going to get better. It's really it's about maintaining it. It seems like it's the type of thing where it might kind of get better, or at least it has so far as he goes on. So if D-Book can keep playing like that and Chris Paul can get to full strength, then that's going to be a scary team. Ayton
I was going to say, I saw someone ask, put something on their story about the card industry and what single player has risen your expectations based off playoff performance, and Ayton was one of the most popular answers, and it totally makes sense. You have this guy that was picked number 1 before Luka, had a lot of doubters, especially in this first year. Didn't play defense, and now he's totally, that the first series they played against the Lakers, he was eating them alive. He was 75-80% from the floor, getting blocks, borderline outplayed Anthony Davis, even when Davis was healthy. So I think that team is exciting. If he's your 3rd best guy, and then you have, Mikal Bridges and Crowder, we were talking about it before we started recording, but there's so many, every team needs these guys, and they have 2 of them. And Cam Johnson, they have a bunch of tall wings that can shoot, which, seems to be the recipe these days.
Yeah, it's funny. This podcast is actually getting me more excited about the basketball card market, man. Like I'm a real like, I don't know. It's like I sometimes I just like I kind of like to go with the flow. Like, all right, this feels. That's actually surprisingly. You got to have a plan for sure, but a lot of it when I've kind of followed my instincts and just what I feel comfortable with, I've actually done the best. So like Aiton and some of these guys have gotten really cheap. If in the off season I can get some Aiton cards for some nice stuff. I mean, there's nice stuff out there for 40, $60 a piece.
Yeah.
Some of these other guys, even take a punt on De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
I think that'll be cool and see what happens going into next season. So, but yeah, he's really impressed me going into what you said. But yeah, speaking of that, the last thing I have for you here, once again, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I asked this to good friend Card Hour, if you listen to the Soccer Card podcast as well. But I said, all right, so if you have 1,000 right now, this exact day, you have $1,000 in cash and you have $1,000 split evenly between vintage. I mean, not like Bill Russell vintage, but like, established stars. So, like your Mitchells, Lucas, that type.
Yeah.
And then prospects. Aiton, those type of guys, and your only objective is to make money. What are you doing right now?
I'm going to be boring and you're going to roll your eyes, but
no, it's fine.
It still may be the best answer. You're saying I have a third to spend on each of them.
No, I'm
spending $1,000 on one of those. On one of those, gotcha.
No. You have $1,000 to spend on whatever you want. You're also holding $1,000 of it split between those three, so you could sell.
Right.
You could hold, and then you can do whatever you want with those other 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the first 1,000, I'm going to pick even like the tier beyond your guys, like you said, I would say established, like Hall of Famers. So I'd say the first 1,000 that I don't have invested already is going to probably Steph, LeBron, Durant, one of those three guys, maybe Harden if the Nets get bounced, especially because he got injured, but there's no reason to think he can't, be in the mix next year. So I'd say the first 1,000 I would spend on those guys, kind of the generation we grew up watching.
Okay, so you only have 1,000 to spend. So you're saying,
then I'm saying that, well, the other 1,000, I thought I had 2,000. Okay, so let's say 500.
The 2,000 you're holding. So I'm saying, like, for instance, okay, I'm gonna interject. I'm gonna do mine real quick.
Okay.
Also, sorry, this is all over the place, but vintage includes, like, I would put LeBron. I know that's gonna really, like, people are gonna be ripping their earphones out, but that's what I kind of mean by that. So it's like one tier is like people whose legacies are on Jay, Duncan, Kobe, those type of guys. Then you have your Booker Mitchell, and then you have some prospects. So for me personally, I would be holding, LeBron, KD, vintage. I would actually be, I would, even though they haven't bounced much, I would be selling my Booker and Mitchell just because they're hot right now.
100%.
Because I think you'll see at least a little bit of, I think you'll see a little bit of a pullback, and I would be holding actually my prospects as well of people who are already out. Even though I know there's some people who are like, get off the sinking ship. I would feel fine holding on to some of these guys if they're relatively cheap. And then with my $1,000, I'd split half and half. So I'd probably go and, once again, this is a hypothetical $1,000. It's not technically, but I'd be buying, like I said, if like Kevin Durant Topps Chrome is down so much, so I would not be afraid pretty soon here to buy some,
pull the trigger, like even 3 of them.
Even I mean, at Kobe at some point has to be a buy. I would just be, when does it feel like the right time? And then the other half, once again, like I said, like some of these guys, whoever's going to get people excited next year, I'd have to sit down and really think about it. But yeah, a Luka, maybe an SGA, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think the only, we just talked about 3 guys, maybe Embiid too. I have a couple nice Embiid stuff that I'm thinking about selling, especially if they, go up against the Nets and they're giving them a run for their money. I might sell it during that series because, everything seems to pull back at least a little bit in the month after the season ends. But to your point, I think there's huge potential with some of these young guys that really will get, like Luka. I don't mean to be like the hype. I'm not holding a bunch of Luka stuff. I'm not trying to like pump his stuff. I have a couple really nice cards, but I really want to get more. And them getting bounced, like the one positive of them getting bounced is you're going to see some of his prices drop. But he's checked all the boxes. The MVPs are on their way. We'll see. I think getting a ring nowadays is going to be, maybe it's always been hard, but it seems like it's especially hard with stars aligning with each other. When you have a team with Durant, Kyrie, and Harden, it looks like an all-star game. Like, how can you have Luka and the Motley bunch go up against him and beat him? So I think he's going to need to get maybe a Giannis or team up with someone. But the MVPs and the personal stuff, elevating the team, he's going to check all those boxes. So I think you sometimes you're best served buying $1,000 worth of one guy. I know that's not that exciting for you, but if you believe in Luka, or if you're a big Zion guy and you think he could be the third best player in the league or second best player in the league, go spend $1,000 on him. It's not always bad to bet on your guy.
Yeah. Well, I'll put you to the test here quickly. What would be, now that I think you get the format, what are you doing? What's your answer to that?
I would say very similar to you. I'd pick a young guy that I believe in. I would first and foremost, I'd spend $500, probably split between Steph and LeBron. I think it's good opportunities. Neither of them are that relevant right now. They're not the shiny new toy, but I think the Lakers are going to be one of the 3 favorites out of the West next year, and I think the Warriors might be as well, especially with some offseason moves. Like, God forbid they trade for another star and they have the second best odds to come out of the West. You're going to see a bump, right away before the season even starts. And I think people, Steph was in the MVP conversation, but in 3 or 4 years, they're going to look back and, he led the league in scoring. He had no shooting around him. The differential, I saw, like, the Warriors had one of the worst offenses in the last 10 years without him. And then when he was on, they were right up there, at league's best. So I think people are going to look back at this Steph year and really appreciate it. So that was my justification for those 2 guys. So I think $500 I'd spend between Steph and LeBron, or maybe Durant. And then I would maybe just go $500 on Luka. I've been telling people I was waiting for a pullback. The whole market's kind of pulled back. His prices are strong, but they're down from where they were. So I think, I wouldn't mind picking up, 500 or whatever, 50% of my investments in Luka. I'm a big time believer.
Okay. Like, great minds think alike. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Luka. I was listening to Bill Simmons and he was talking about, if I'm Luka, I'm not even signing a rookie max extension. I'm telling them I'm only doing 1+1s, or just like,
but Bill Simmons is such an old, oh my God. Yeah.
You have to get, the funniest is Bill Simmons has a subreddit and people they make memes of the stuff he says because it's so memeable. He's like, I think Chris Paul is about 37%. Where does he come up with these? Where does he come up with these numbers? It's just funny. I want to start throwing out some absurd theories on here, though. It's funny to listen to.
I know. We should start just doing the hot takes. Like, he was also like, Blake Griffin is trash. He's not going to be a factor at all. And it's like, the dude, I mean, he's outperformed everyone's expectations, but he's just been wrong calling guys. And the thing that I think people don't like about Bill Simmons is that he's wrong, and he's always like in a negative way. It's not like he's hyping up all these guys and then he's right about it or he's wrong about it. He's calling everyone washed, and then sometimes they're not. And it's like, dude, you just look like a prick. But he gets paid millions of dollars to do it, and I got nothing bad to say about him.
Yeah, I remember he proposed some crazy trade. He's like, he always throws out his trades. He's like, especially for the Celtics, right? So he's like, McCollum to the Celtics for Kemba Walker. If you're Portland, why don't you do that? Stop. Ryan Russillo's just like, because you don't want to be fired.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, the trades he throws out is really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all right. Enough Bill Simmons hour, but it's funny. Definitely go check those. Check out that. I will highly recommend check out that subreddit if you listen to Bill Simmons. You'll find it funny.
Yeah.
But all right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll definitely come back, see what happens. It'll be interesting to see what goes on with the playoffs and with prices. And we'll see you next time.
We'll be back at a minimum to be talking about final stuff, and then hopefully get an episode there in the beginning of the off season and kind of talk about what we're seeing, price wise. Because I think, to your point, we're entering a new era where stuff isn't going to be as predictable, and it's exciting. There's still going to be opportunities everywhere.
Stay tuned, guys. Exciting times. All right, we'll see you next.